As Russia's energy sector is struggling to meet domestic demand, authorities in the country's Far East Zabaykalsky region have complained to Kremlin about gasoline and diesel shortage. Governor Aleksandr Osipov sent a letter to Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin and the Energy Ministry describing a severe gasoline shortage across the region. Zabaykalsky region, a sparsely populated area bordering Mongolia and China, has completely run out of 92-octane fuel for retail use. Only state vehicles such as police and emergency services have access to limited government reserves, according to the local outlet Chita. The letter also noted that fuel shortages now affect much of Russia, including regions with refineries. Independent Russian media have reported similar issues since August, when Ukraine began long-range attacks on oil refineries and transport infrastructure. In Zabaykalsky region, the major fuel chains Kors and BRK have number 92-octane fuel, and coupon rationing has been imposed for higher grades and diesel. Local officials said a train shipment of fuel had arrived in Chita and would soon be distributed to stations. Meanwhile, Denis Osipov from the Regional Economy Ministry dismissed the crisis as consumer panic and media exaggeration, saying the situation was stabilizing. Neither he nor federal officials have publicly linked the shortages to Ukrainian drone strikes, which have been hitting Russian energy facilities almost daily since July. Energy Minister Sergei Tsiviliov acknowledged limited shortages and rising prices but blamed seasonal demand and refinery maintenance rather than wartime damage. State and regional media have largely echoed this explanation, describing the issue as temporary. Still, complaints about soaring prices are spreading. Reports from Belgorod say fuel prices have risen about 15% since late October, while in Murmansk, analysts note that 92-octane gasoline has reached 86 rubles per liter, around 40% higher than in summer. One rare exception came from a local newspaper in the Kherson region, which admitted that drone strikes on western Russian refineries were a key cause of the current shortages, forcing fuel from Siberia to be redirected westward. According to the independent outlet Astra, up to 40% of Russia's refining capacity has been disrupted by Ukrainian attacks, potentially double Western estimates. Fuel shortages, rationing, and shutdowns have swept across most of Russia's 11 time zones, with the worst effects seen in poorer regions such as Buryatia, Dagestan, and the Far East, as well as in occupied Ukrainian territories like Luhansk and Crimea. Even in oil-rich central Siberia, motorists are waiting in kilometer-long queues, sparking criticism of government mismanagement and price gouging. According to Ukraine's estimates, Ukrainian long-range strikes on refineries inside Russia have reduced Moscow's oil refining capacity by 20%.
Across Russia, ordinary people who dare to complain about flooded roads, housing issues, or toxic air often face retribution from the authorities when residents post videos pleading for help. In many cases, the response from officials is not solutions but threats, fines, and even criminal charges. Sever.Reli media outlet spoke with people on the ground to better understand how authorities are retaliating against those who speak out. We hoped people in other villages facing the same road problems would see it, like it, share it, that someone would finally listen, at least answer our letters, Sergei said, because living here is impossible. How can you raise children like this? How can the elderly survive if even doctors can't reach us? The authorities did not take notice, but instead of sending help, they filed a police report accusing the residents of spreading a fake video. That was my relative, knee-deep in mud, filming that video. It's not fake, said Irina, name changed. You know what they wrote in their report? That it was all a setup. A setup by who? The 400 people who live in our village? For years, residents of Podlesnoy, a community in the Khanty-Mansi Autonomous Okrug town of Pityak, have been fighting to keep their homes. The town's former mayor, Dmitry Gobunov, had promised to officially register their land plots and houses, which were first built as temporary housing, even though they lived there year-round. But after a new mayor took office, those promises were scrapped. When residents recorded a video appeal to Putin, the response wasn't help. It was threats of criminal charges for allegedly insulting a public official. After a year of our petitions, Gobunov promised that each of us would finally get our own plot. They'd map the land and we'd be able to register our houses as permanent residences, said Lyudmila, name changed. But now it turns out the land survey project was never approved, and the new authorities refuse to recognize our community at all. According to residents last year, local officials tried to drive them out by cutting off their water and heat before winter. We started burning whatever we could to stay warm. There were terrible fires here, Lyudmila recalled. Apparently, the authorities want to sell off our land for profit, and they're threatening to bring in bulldozers and go straight through our yards and houses. What kind of fascism is this? Of course, we are outraged and turned to the president, and now they're threatening us with criminal charges just for calling things what they are. The video where residents called the bulldozer threats fascism has since disappeared from the internet. Supposedly, we insulted the city administration by calling their threats to drive a bulldozer over us fascist. Lyudmila said, "They made us sign a warning. If we gather to record another video appeal, it will be treated as an unauthorized rally. But it's they who are insulting us, not the other way around." The residents of Podlesnoy never received a reply from the presidential administration. What they did get was another reminder from Pityak officials that they could move into other housing.